to another episode of Twilight Chapters. Today we are reading the first chapter of Georgia Rules by Nanci Turner Stevenson. Enjoy! Georgia Rules by Nanci Turner Stevenson, Chapter 1. On a hot day in June, when all I wanted was to come back from my run and cool off in my room alone, Mama didn't even give me 2 minutes recovery time before she sent my world spinning. I was late for lunch, still sweaty, probably smelling like the locker room of a high school football team, and was counting on her to send me off to shower before being allowed at the table. She barely glanced my way. Instead, she wiggled in her seat and cleared her throat twice, then stood up so fast her chair almost fell backward. My word, what good is central air conditioning if it doesn't keep you from sweating like a bronc on rodeo night? She nervously adjusted the little lever under the thermostat on the wall, then sat down again and fanned herself with her hand. I grew up without air conditioning, did I tell you that? And believe me, it's a whole lot hotter where I come from than I ever thought about being here in Atlanta. More sweat broke out on my brow. The wiggle and throat-clearing thing was a sign she was about to drop some kind of bomb. I took a sip of sweet tea and swiped a napkin across my forehead. Yup, you told me. She shifted one more time, and before I even had a chance to catch my breath, she laid the biggest kind of crazy ever right in my lap. Did I happen to mention your daddy left you his farm in Vermont when he died? My daddy had been dead almost 4 months. I figured there must be something wrong with me because I never felt the type of devastation you're supposed to feel when a parent dies. It's not like I knew him that well. Mama had been married to Peter since I was 5, and some days I forgot about my daddy altogether. I don't think I even cried. When my best friend Irene's dog died, I was near inconsolable for days. No, you didn't tell me, I said. I mean about the farm. Mama picked up her salad fork and pushed lettuce around the plate. Well, he did. Those kinds of things always take time, but we finally got the formal documents. I had the lawyer check everything out. It's all official. There's even a trustee. And guess what else? We're going to live there for 1 year. That knocked the air right out of me. She might as well have said we were moving to Siberia or Montana. Her face puckered up like it did when she'd been dipping into her not-so-secret stash of Sour Patch Kids candy. What are you looking at me like that for? She asked. I'm waiting for you to tell me what you mean. About what? About moving to Vermont. Does Peter want to go? Then she pretended to be really invested in her soup, stirring, sipping, studying mint-colored ripples that spread to the painted meadow around the edge of her bowl. Oh, he's not going, just you and me. It'll be like an adventure. And Peter's not going because... Pause. Because he's decided to divorce us, that's why. Then she did look at me, right square in the eyes. And because of what I saw in hers, I didn't let the hissy fit loose that was simmering just under my skin. She was scared. I took a deep breath and picked up my spoon, drawing in the creamy sensation of chilled soup, letting it coat my tongue and hoping it would have the same soothing effect on my spinning brain. Peter's decided he likes that friend of his, Albert, better than us, so we're moving out and Albert's moving in. If it weren't for the opportunity your daddy's farm gives us, I might feel like discarded furniture. But I don't. Now stop acting so shocked and close your mouth. It's hanging wide open. My mouth wasn't hanging open because she'd implied my very proper stepfather was gay. It was hanging open because I couldn't imagine, if it was true, how he'd kept that a secret for so long. He and Mama didn't approve of homosexuality, or at least that's what they'd always said to me. One time at dinner, I told them about a discussion some friends and I were having at school about gay marriage. Mama had been so horrified, she leaned into me and whispered, "We don't discuss things like that, sugar." Then she'd made me give her the names of all the other kids, and she'd actually called their parents. That was my least popular week at school. Well, you can go to Vermont if you want, I said. I'm staying in Georgia. I turned back to my lunch, signaling that my decision was final. And just where do you think you'll live? Here, with Peter. Her nostrils flared. You, Peter, and Albert? Not a chance. We're going to Vermont, and there is nothing more to discuss. She sat tall and lifted her chin, signaling that her decision was final. Why can't we stay in Atlanta and just live somewhere else? We can find an apartment near my school. Do you have any idea how much that fancy school of yours costs? How do you expect me to pay for something like that? Peter will still pay for it, I said, my bravado fading. Won't he? He's not throwing us to the dogs, if that's what you mean. He'll give us enough to live on, but I can't hold my head up in this town anymore. Not with this dark shadow of shame being cast over my head." She waved her salad fork around in the air. "2 divorces, one from a man who's not right in the head, the other from a man who's decided he's in love with another man, and I'm only 33 years old. No, this is our chance to start over. You and I are going to Vermont, and that's final." Now it was my turn to wiggle. "But we are coming back after a year, right?" "How can I answer that right this second? You always want answers to the most impossible questions when I'm stressed. Do you realize that?" I wasn't 13 yet, but even I knew the truth. Any question was impossible when Mama was like this. It didn't matter if I asked her how her day was, or what the astronauts on Apollo 13 ate for breakfast. It would be too difficult for her to answer, so I shut up. "All we need to think about right now is getting through the year. It was in your daddy's last will and testament. 1 year, then we can sell the place and have a huge amount of money to live on the rest of our lives. Those 4,000 acres are worth a fortune. That's the only reason I'm taking us back there." "Well, I'm the one in school, so I vote we stay here." "Until you are an adult, your vote doesn't count. So get over it and start packing." Peter didn't come home until after dinner. I figured he'd planned it that way on purpose because he knew Mama was going to tell me about the divorce. Once inside, he made a beeline for his study, but he left the door open. That meant it was okay to interrupt. He sat at his computer examining a colorful graph on the screen, his back tall and stiff, his starched shirt buttoned to the top, his hair clipped in precise half circles over each ear. It was the same way he sat at the breakfast table, the same way he sat in his car and in the stadium at my track meets. I knocked gently. "Come in," he said. I perched on the edge of a leather chair and clasped my hands together, hoping it made me look calm and relaxed on the outside. Inside, things were stormy. Peter swung around. "Did you know Thomas Jefferson invented the swivel chair?" I nodded. "You showed me when we went to Monticello." "Yes, I'd forgotten. I did." I shifted uneasily. The speech I'd spent the afternoon preparing escaped out of the top of my head like dandelion seeds blown away from the stem. "I suppose your mother spoke to you?" "Yes." "I hope you don't judge me too harshly." "No." He dipped his head in a teeny tiny nod, and his eyes softened, like he'd really been worried I would judge him. "I'll always see to your finances. You and your mother won't suffer for funds, and if you ever need anything, you can always call me. You know that, right?" Then I remembered what I came to tell him. I don't want to go to Vermont. Silence. Maybe he didn't understand I needed his help to make that happen. "Can you tell her to stay? I don't mean in this house, but here in Atlanta. I don't want to move." Peter's left cheek twitched just under his eye. He folded, then unfolded his hands. His cheek twitched again, and I knew right then that he wasn't going to help me. "I understand," he said. "I really do. But she's thinking of your future. It is best." "My future? What about now? What about this very minute?" I waited, hoping he might say something else, something with more promise to it. But he didn't. Nothing. We stared at each other until his computer screen turned dark in power save mode. "Okay," I finally said. "I'm glad you understand. We'll talk more before you go." "Okay." Peter reached out and touched my shoulder with his fingertips before turning back to his computer. I left the room feeling shocked and defeated. Really, who moves from the busy city of Atlanta to a town in Vermont so tiny you've probably never heard of it, right smack in the middle of summer, when your best friend is an ocean away on vacation and you can't even say goodbye to her? Me. That's who. I hope you liked the first chapter of Georgia Rules by Nanci Turner Stevenson. If you did and you want to hear more, you can check it out as an ebook or request it at curbside. Have a great night!